Just north of San Francisco, across the Golden Gate Bridge, deep in a redwood forest in Marin County, lives an artist who makes truly beautiful art. Harry Cohen's studio sits about 50 yards behind his home, slightly up a hill.
Oh, come on in.
You can't ask for a warmer, nicer person. As abundant as the trees that surround Harry's studio, so is the art that hangs from the walls and rises up from the floor that goes completely around the inside of Harry's studio. People come from all around the world to see Harry's studio and to buy his paintings.
I don't intellectualize them. I get an idea and that either works out or don't work out.
I've heard Harry on several occasions say he's not an intellectual and that he's not very articulate. However, it takes an extremely well-developed mind to do what he does. Harry really likes this black and white portrait of a man's face that is increasingly coming into view. I think it's got a haunting quality to it. Every day this 83-year-old artist is in this studio making more and more art. And he is very fortunate. For most of his life, he has found something that he really loves to do. Here he is in his studio with one of his assistants. I never asked Harry what we're looking at, but I think it's a representation of the sun.
This was a takeoff on Lucca, Italy. We love that city, God, so I did a little takeoff on these. It's a nice painting.
Yeah, it is.
When they were younger, Harry and his wife, Marge, traveled around the world.
Well, it was a time after I had done a period of gesture paintings, and I was looking for different things, and I kind of went back to the basic geometry of painting, and I had a long interest in cubism, although I was not a cubist, and I had fooled around with rollers, rolling paint over paper, and it occurred to me that I could construct and organize space with both the color and paper. And because you get wonderful effects by taking different paints and rolling it. It was a quick way to establish the construction of the painting. And then it just naturally evolved that with shape and form, you could create this kind of surface excitement.
Looking at this painting, you can clearly see the use of rollers to create the effect that Harry wanted to create. Another great artist in America today, Leonard Breaker, said to me, there's one main characteristic about your work. It's somehow or another, it's full of energy and life. And is that what you try to put into your paintings?
No, not consciously.
Okay.
I think that's always existed. I think that spontaneity and vitality, if it is so, comes from who you are.
From who you are.
Yeah.
So it's the personality that.
Well,
to a good
yes, it
extent.
is, because obviously we all have the facade, the appearance, and painting, of course, is trying to get beyond that. You know, you're trying to find the qualities in your makeup and in your life that have meaning, and you try to establish it through the forms of art. The verticals were, for me, were there as in the details, the colors grade for color prisms, and it was something like the light coming through a forest. It had that kind of vertical magic, and it was to me a little like Impressionism, and that fascinated me, and I think I did a lot of paintings in that direction.
Fred Holly is a former art professor, and he's a practicing painter in San Mateo, California. I put this painting in front of him, and I asked him what he thought of it.
This looks like a Harry Cohen to me.
Yes. How do you categorize this painting?
Well, Harry is a tremendously diverse artist. He's one of the finest painters I know. The paint is part of his body. When he uses paint, it's an extension of his hand. And this happens to be a little more geometric than the Harry that I first knew, who did subject matter in his paintings, but still had the abstract character to them. This gets more geometric. There's two aspects of any painting, form and content. In both cases, there is no content. It's all form. The subject matter is the form. And that's true of Mondrian, and that's true of Harry in that particular case.
Okay. I think we're looking at what Fred Holly was talking about. I don't see any clearly identifiable objects in this painting. I asked Harry, what does he really find interesting about art?
And in my case, I've always had this fascination for the surface of painting, the love of discovering what's behind all the structure that you present.
Do you think this artist likes what he creates?
Woo!
I like that. Could we take a quick look at Napa Redfish Jazz?
Oh, yes, that's a beauty.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful painting.
and that's
Well, there, like anything else, the basic love for surface and shape and color, you never lose it, you know. And before long, I'm trying to reintroduce other forms and bringing back some movement, and this is one of them.
So I can see some movement. You know, you have
Not a lot.
you got things moving around. Your eye has to follow different pathways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a lovely painting. Again, paper and rollers.
And rollers and glue, lots
And
of
glue.
glue.
This is a close-up of what we were just talking about.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Of course, some paintings there's some of others. You can paint, 10 paintings, let's say, of a scene like you were showing, and nothing will be there. And then suddenly that 11th one, you'll just flow. You'll just suddenly do everything right, and the painting is there before you realize it. And then others you will struggle over for months. And then one day you feel like you've abandoned it, and the next day you look at it, and my God, it's almost like magic. It's there, and you didn't know it, and didn't see it.
This is a recent painting, and so is the next one that we'll be looking at in a moment. I asked Harry who significantly influenced him in his early life.
I think Kokoschka was very important.
Right.
At the time when I was a young student, I had studied with him at a summer school in Western Massachusetts in Pittsfield.
Okay.
And more than what he showed me was basically he was very wise and fatherly, and probably in that sense probably a truer father than I had my own. And it explained to me that art wasn't just really the application of the media itself, that had something to do with the context of life.
So for you, your life, your essence, and art are very interconnected.
Always has
Right.
been. Because when you're a young student, you have to make very big decisions.
Okay.
Right. I remember rather facetiously, he used to come weekly to these appointed houses to give us critiques. And he had done that every week. And at one time we were talking about a painting, and he noticed how serious I was, as you were when you're a student. And he said, Harry, you really need to find a rich woman, somebody to take care of you. In his own way, I think he was trying to tell me that you're a serious artist, and that art is difficult.
All right.
And you can probably would benefit. Better known for his wonderful series of portraits. When he was a young man, he in Austria, he became friends with a doctor at an asylum, and it was for handicapped and mental patients. And he did a series of them, very wonderful paintings. And he had this feeling that he got from his mother, this kind of psychic, genetic, that he inherited. And he thought he was able to apply this to these students, to these people. And so that was, very impressive.
So
it also gave me an inkling as to that the kind of light that you can shed into people's faces, and probably one of my basic interests in doing portraits through the years.
This is a self-portrait of Oskar Kokoschka. And these are portraits that Harry has made, and right now he's getting ready to send them off to an agent in Chelsea. Okay, I'd like to bring up another one of your paintings. It's Dancers, #1.
Mm-hmm.
So while they bring that up, Kokoschka
Yeah.
was very influential to you as a young man and shaping your character. And the character for you significantly influences what you paint in art. Okay, we have another one of your lovely paintings up here, and this is, I believe, 66 by 50 inches.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good-sized painting.
Medium size.
Medium
Yeah,
size. You have bigger ones.
Well, yes. Yeah. It's a nice painting. Yeah.
And again, it's a combination of using the rollers.
Rollers and glue and paper. The paper came about that when I was doing rollers, I would at the end of the session, I would take the paint that was on a roller and roll it over paper to get rid of the paint, the color. And wonderful things happen while you're doing that. It's the sort of thing that artists do all the time. They discover little tricks and that little phenomena that take place with their tools. And I thought, wow, that's a nice coloration. And if I combined it, you know, the old story, if you have one thing, you try another, and before you know it, I would throw paint over it and then push it into the paint and then throw another paint over it, and then you had layers. And that's the part that fascinated me, because you're kind of burying parts of it and allowing parts to come through. Yeah. And you got sort of a depth, a shallow one, but one that had a lot of vitality, a lot of punch to it.
So that
depth, yeah. Because I no longer wanted, you know, perspective in the painting. I didn't want to paint large spaces, interiors. I really was thinking in terms of the four corners, what's generally known as kind of a field effect.
So you moved away from perspective.
I moved away from perspective and figurative images, because that itself seemed to be very strong. And I thought, so I devoted probably a couple of years of my life to this particular kind of, which covered these kind of paintings.
That's a newer paint.
Okay.
I have to see it myself. Yeah, I like that.
You just can't take paint and just move it around. There's a thing called paint quality. And so something like this, you use the brush in a very individual way, and it's like almost like a signature. and one can't emulate. You can't do that by just taking a paint and splashing it around. It has to say something, and it's just like handwriting. And painters have, each of us, Leonard has it, I have it, a lot of Picasso had it. It's a type of paint quality that personifies his particular way of painting shapes and forms. And so when I emphasize the surface, it only means that I identify with painters who have this kind of paint quality.
Harry certainly has a large body of work, maybe 300 paintings and maybe hundreds of drawings.
Oh, I did the jazz series, and I did a football series, and I did the Muscle Men, and I did banquet tables.
All right.
You know, and then I did a series of brides and chefs. That was my soutine period. That was probably in the 60s.
Who answered it? You answered with each period with clearly identifiable objects.
Yes.
Dining rooms.
Yes. They were all figurative for the most part.
All right. And I believe we have one of your paintings from one of those periods, maybe the Muscle Man period.
Muscle Man.
The team. Thank you. There it is, right there. And I also remember, as you spoke about these periods, you said this was my soutine period.
Yes. I was very enamored of his surface, which was magical, and he did some wonderful paintings of choir boys, weddings, and landscapes were very exciting. And
This painting is from his jazz series, and so is this one.
Name of this one, Harry?
One half of you.
Which half is it?
My better half.
Because his better half named it.
She's downstairs cleaning up.
Now, you've had many periods.
mm-hmm.
What period are you in now? What are you trying to accomplish with your art?
I think, like all artists, every day when they pick up the brush, they're in a kind of a continuity. That which preceded them in the past, it suggests the future, and you kind of reach back for the ideas that you have done, and which already tells you that there is something beyond you, and and you constantly keep reaching, and that takes the concrete form of what do I want, how do I approach the form, and is there something different I'm looking for, and that's part of the work, because you can lay out your idea, but it may not satisfy the qualities that you're looking for. Art has been a wonderful experience and a privilege that one often wonders about the nature of what you might have done with your life, but on reflection, it's been a wonderful experience to be in art. You go to any museum, it's like going to a church. You look at what those wonderful people have done.
Harry Cohen lives in Woodacre, California, with his lovely wife, the former Marge McDonald, from San Antonio, Texas. I'm Michael Killen, in Palo Alto, 650-3 327-2312. I hope you enjoyed this program.